Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our third episode of our Core Choreography Competition Artist Talk series. We go live every Tuesday on YouTube at 6 p.m. Eastern. Over these few weeks, we have six episodes. So tonight is our third episode. Excuse me. Over these next few weeks, we will be speaking with the semi-finalists of our core choreography competition. We will give them the space to share their thoughts, perspectives, and learn more about their work. And the winner of C3 will set a new work on CHEN Project Dancers for our next New York season, and we are aiming for fall 2021. So stay tuned for updates. My name is Jessica Chen, and I am Artistic Director of CHEN Project and one of your hosts for this evening. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am occupying stolen Lenape land, which is currently referred to as Hell's Kitchen, New York. And here with me this evening is Neysha, my co host.
Hi, my name is Neysha Merced. I am a CHEN Project dancer, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I also occupy Lenape and Canarsie land, otherwise known as Bushwick, Brooklyn, New York. Every week we have a couple of announcements. We would like to highlight different events, news, and organizations in the dance community that have been inspiring to us during this time, as well as updates from our company. CHEN Project is working on a special dance video artwork that will premiere next month. We're collaborating with composer Tony Yang, who has created a special track just for this project. So stay tuned for that. It's also going to be just a very gorgeous work. If you're not on our mailing list, by the way, you can sign up on our website or just comment your email in the chat here if you're comfortable with that. We have a few other exciting things that we can't announce just yet, so sign up for that newsletter. Next, we have Dance NYC. They're doing a dance service. Dance NYC is a dance service organization that has been an arts hero during this time. CHEN Project is a recipient of their Coronavirus Dance Relief Fund, and they're organizing an event called Dance Rising NYC on October 1st and October 3rd from 5 to 5:30. NYC professional dancers take to the windows, take to the streets, the rooftops. We all have to do this to dance. We will drop a link in the comment box as well as a few of other resources from Dance NYC if you're interested. So definitely check it out. And the last thing that we want to announce this week, today is the last, I think today or tomorrow. Was it Jessica? Tomorrow is the deadline. So please complete the census if you have not already. It happens every 10 years and the deadline is on September 30th. So you have today and tomorrow. The census data is used to distribute billions of dollars to the census. Billions of dollars for federal programs and resources, including the arts and culture. So if you don't take it, the city will not receive sufficient federal funding to support its citizens in the arts. It's quick and easy, takes only about 10 minutes to complete. It's safe, secure, and confidential. Your information and privacy are protected. Back to you, Jessica.
Awesome, Neysha. Thank you so much. We've dropped all those links in the chat box. And now, talking about the chat box, we are asking if you are here with us tonight, if you can please comment in the chat box so that we know that you are here with us. We do see how many views, but we do see how many people are viewing, but we don't know who you are. So say hello. We'd love to know if you're here. And also throughout the evening, please feel free to add any comments or questions that you may have in the chat box. We'll be gathering the questions for a panel discussion at the end of the show tonight. So if you have questions for our panelists, and please feel free to include that in the chat box. And lastly, before we begin, we just want to ask for your patience should we experience any technical difficulties. Every week, we're getting better and better with this, and it has been a fun journey. But if there are any technical difficulties, we will do our best to troubleshoot everything. So, and with that said, we are going to say goodbye to Neysha for a little bit, and we're going to welcome our first guest. Our first guest is Aaliyah Cachet. You here?
I'm here. Hello.
Hi, hello. Aaliyah, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background.
Well, I am, again, my name is Aaliyah Cachet. My pronouns are she and her. I am currently occupying stolen Muncie Lenape land as well, which is currently known as Weehawken, New Jersey. I am originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I've always been an artist. And I say that not in a pretentious, oh, I'm an artist way, but in a, like I've never not done this. As a kid, my friends and I, after church, would make a play and perform the play for our parents. We were always making clothes for our dolls or making music, singing a song. And my first formal training as an artist was actually not in dance, it was in music. I played piano. And I really wanted to dance. I'd always loved it, but never had an opportunity to do it. And my piano teacher at the time suggested that I go to an audition for the performing arts school that she taught at. And from there, I auditioned, and they did not give me an option of piano because they did not give sixth graders, for whatever reason, the option of playing piano. But they did give me a choice between dance and musical theater. And since I had always loved dance, I decided that that would be what I did. So I became a dancer and I started training. And we trained halfway between technique classes, you know, learning plie, tendu, all of that stuff in ballet, and equal parts improvisation. We had to create dances all the time. That was part of the curriculum. And it was never a choice of if I wanted to create or if I didn't. It was great, so you just do it. But it really kind of informed how I approach movement, how I approach my own choreography, and have started to develop movement. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. So Aaliyah, when we spoke, you told me that you were the third class at Fordham University at the Ailey School. Can you tell us a bit about your time as a student at the Ailey School?
Well, the program was still really kind of solidifying at that point. When I started, there wasn't a full house. You know, there were only 3 classes there. And, you know, it was cool because they had everything set up the way they thought that the program should go. And then as all of these kids started coming into the school, they started saying, the students would say, you know, we want to explore this. We want to have Limon. We want to have improv. We want to have Hawkins or any number of other techniques. And as long as it was a codified technique and not a release technique, they would let us do it and bring it in as part of our curriculum. We had to take music theory. We had to take theater for dancers, which has proven to be super helpful for me. You know, now kind of going back and forth between commercial and concert dance, or theater dance and concert dance, that storytelling, which has really become such a big part of my work, was really essential. And I'm really glad that they saw the need to expose us to all of those different programs.
How did you segue more from the commercial dance world, from the concert dance world into the commercial dance world? Was there a time where you like shifted that way, or how did you kind of balance the two worlds, or even discover the other world?
I have been lucky or not. I don't know how you would put it, but I've always kind of done both throughout my career. Having a love of music and love of theater that I've always had, we were required to go to auditions. That was something else that they had us do at the Ailey School in the BFA program. They required us to go to, I think it was 4 auditions at least our senior year, and I was already auditioning for musical theater at that point, and concert dance. And my first job as a dancer was with Ailey too. My job after that, because the choreographer, Sarita Allen, of that particular production of Aida that I did, saw me perform with Ailey too. She said, hey, come audition for Aida. So I auditioned, I got in, and then that was kind of my theatrical debut. And I've kind of just hopped back and forth between the two. I think after Aida, I danced in Portugal for a year. Did I do that? No, after Aida, sorry. After Aida, I did a Radio City Christmas Spectacular. Then I danced in Portugal. Then I came back to the States and booked the Lion King national tour. And even in between all of those, I've done all of the gigs, traveling to Europe to do commercials, doing pickup work with friends, pickup work with other artistic directors that had seen me work while I was at the Ailey School, or that I met while I was there, at any point in my career. Yeah.
Well, in New York, you audition for all of these shows, either tours or for other companies, etc. But tell us about Portugal, because there was something that you actually went there.
Yeah, I saw an ad in Dance Europe magazine. I looked in their audition section. That audition happened almost right after I did Radio City, actually. And I said, I'm going. So I bought a plane ticket and a hotel, and I went and I booked it. Again, I got really lucky. I know so many dancers that are brilliant dancers, better than I am, some of them. And, it's about being in the right place at the right time.
But there has to be more than that, right, Leah? There's something. What do you think has been your constant throughout your career, especially with balancing commercial and theater? Has there been something that's like a driving force or a constant in your career?
I'll say a few things have been. First of all, word of mouth is paramount. I've gotten so many jobs from someone remembering how I worked with them in another project. All of the recommendations for all of the things, even as far as choreography goes, I've gotten other gigs because someone remembered me from here and I was so easy to work with, or I worked really hard, or I took directions well. And that has really carried me through. And I guess to piggyback on that, I work really hard. I work really, really hard still. I'm still dancing. So I still consider myself to be a dancer and a choreographer and educator. But my artistic practice consists of me training. Not every day, because I'm older and I don't want to. Let's be real. And right now, it's kind of, everybody's at a standstill. So I do train, and that keeps me happy. And I also train because I know that when this is all over, and I'm still creating, but when this is all over, I'm going to need to be able to hit the ground running. So working really, really hard, paying attention, not being a pain in the butt.
It's so true. I mean, this is an industry of building relationships, right? And that's what I hear. You built relationships, from Ailey to Sarita Allen to Aida, to the, you know, and that is so important. It really is. And so it's not just about the talent or the legs or the height of the jump or everything. It's the all-inclusive artist.
You have to be a package.
Yeah. And so how do you train as a dancer?
I do ballet twice a week, and I supplement that with yoga and circuit training. A friend of my sister-in-law, I'm going to give a shout out to Body by Trainer on Instagram. She's amazing. I've been taking her classes, her circuit training classes. She's got a lot of fun music. She gives great exercises. She's a former dancer. And so a lot of the stuff is still kind of dance oriented. But there's, you know, you use body weight, your own body weight and resistance to create that resistance, you know, nice long muscles. It's fun to do. It's really challenging. So I've been doing that recently.
And tell us about, so you were an Ailey School student, and then you danced in Ailey too, and then you went on to do amazing, exciting things, and then you came back to Ailey too.
As rehearsal.
Yeah,
yes.
As rehearsal director. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was such a rewarding experience. I think one of the things that got me the job in the first place was that I left the organization and had kind of gotten this wealth of information from all over and working with all of these different people that I could bring back. And I'm really, really happy that I took that position. I absolutely loved that job and working with those dancers. One of the really cool things about that job to me was having an opportunity to give to those dancers what Sylvia and Troy and Derek gave to me as a dancer. You know, everything that I am as a professional was set up by them. And so, you know, of course, I learned other things along the way and I have my own preferences. But when I came back, I was able to impart that same knowledge. And hopefully, we'll see. I mean, everybody's working, so I feel like I did my job. Which, you know, it doesn't always happen that way. You don't always book after that. But I feel like I was able to help set those dancers up for success. And I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity. And it actually informed me a lot and taught me a lot about how to communicate with people, how to organize time, how to get the most out of someone, you know, with love. There's so much abuse in the dance community, I think. And so being able to give those dancers agency over what happens to them and what happens to their career and what happens in the studio. But we were still efficient, we still had a good time, we got everything done.
For the audience that doesn't know this job description, can you tell a little bit about what it is, what it takes, what you do as a rehearsal director?
Yes. So I kind of wore a lot of hats. I don't know that this is actually in the job description, but what I did was teach company class to the dancers when the school was not open, or if the first company didn't have company class, it was my responsibility to either find teachers or teach myself. It would usually be a ballet or a Horton-based or a contemporary class. I had to restage old repertory, some of which I did not know, some of it I did. The stuff that I did know was obviously easier. I had to work with choreographers, basically support them as they're creating new pieces. So I'm getting the information from them. Sometimes they just want me to press play, and I just press play. and that was all it was. And then there were some choreographers that wanted me to be a little bit more involved. And, you know, they look at it and go, well, this isn't working. How can we fix it? And I would offer suggestions. A big part of my job was telling choreographers, please don't use crossovers. As silly as that sounds, Ailey 2 goes to a lot of smaller theaters and places that the first company just can't go because it's too big or union stuff or whatever. And Ailey 2 has an opportunity to go to those places, which sometimes means you have to change choreography. But I tried to make sure that that didn't happen as much as possible.
It sounds like you help make everybody's life better and easier working.
I could, you know. Another thing I guess I did, I kind of would facilitate conversations between management staff and artistic staff. So, you know, if the choreographer comes in and they want to use this music and they haven't necessarily given, they're changing their music or whatever, then I would have to communicate that. If a dancer is having an issue with something that the company manager said and they don't know how to address it without, you know, blowing the top, I'd address that. Sometimes we would have things where we do industrials for organizations and they would like something to be done musically in a very specific way. I speak that language, so I would do that as well.
Okay, amazing. Before I let you go, Aaliyah, can you tell us a little bit of what you're working on right now? Anything that we can look forward to or look for?
Yes, I at the moment, I think all of our practices have been changed a little bit by COVID. So I've kind of started to dive into dance film, and I am working with a few dancers from New York City Ballet on a short little ditty. We're just going to play, see what we come up with. So that's happening. I've applied to a ton of residencies and fellowships, so we'll see what happens with those. And in 2021, I'm actually going to be choreographing on Ballet X. I am their 2021 choreographic fellow.
That's huge. That's amazing. What a rock star of a company.
Yeah.
Oh, so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, on that note, we're going to say goodbye to Leah for a little bit, but if you have any questions or comments, please drop it in our chat if you're with us a little later. She'll be back at the end for our panel discussion. And so up next, our second artist this evening, we have Rohan Bhargav. Rohan, hi.
Hey.
Rohan, please introduce yourself and tell us how you began your dance life.
Yeah. My name is Rohan Bhargav, and I am the founder and artistic director of Roboco Dance Company. I prefer the pronouns he, him, his, and I'm currently talking from Brooklyn, New York, which sits on stolen Lenape land. I actually started dance training when I was 7 years old. My parents saw that I was dancing at home and they decided to put me into like Western dance classes in New Delhi, India, which is where I grew up. Fun fact, something that you would not find on my bio, is that I was actually putting up shows in my living room when I was 5 years old, and I think that's what inspired my parents to put me into dance classes. So I would whenever guests would come over, I would have prepared like 2-3 dances, and then I would put on the show, ask guests to like pay 10 rupees each, which was nothing. And then in between the performances, I would do like advertisements based on what was happening in TV on those days. And yeah, I think it was just somehow because of the culture that I was growing up in, I always had a knack for dance and music and theater, and my parents have been so instrumental in supporting that, and I think that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here today in New York. But when I was 18, I moved to New York City to pursue my BFA in dance from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. And then since graduating, I have been running my dance company and teaching and choreographing and educating people and kids in New York. So yeah.
I love that story, Ron. You're a little entrepreneur.
I know, crazy.
That's amazing. Charging 10 rupees and having advertisements.
It was the whole thing.
Whole thing. You did talk, when we spoke on the phone, you did say that this time in quarantine, you've actually been focusing on more administrative things for your company. So I feel like this is a perfect segue because your, child essence was already, ready, you put that value of the work that you did are already high when you were at a young age, and so now as a company director you are focusing on that. So I'm wondering if you can just tell us, share with us what that means, what you've been working on during this time.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate to get a fellowship at the beginning of the year, which was also amazing because, because of COVID, so many things were canceled. But the fellowship was actually something that kind of pushed me through this time to keep creating and reimagining what I could do during this time. And this was the Jaden Wong Fellowship from the Asian American Arts Alliance. And part of the fellowship is actually they assign you a business administrative mentor, and they ask you like, what do you need, like what are some things that you want a little bit more direction on, and then they find someone who has that expertise. So I was working with someone from Pentacle, and what it means was that I actually started like from scratch a bookkeeping system for the company, which is so crucial because budgeting and numbers and data collection is something that I feel like freelance dancers and artists need a lot. And it's that education is so lacking. It's so easy to, be like, oh, I'm going to create dance or I'm going to do this job, and then realize that you know nothing about how to manage the money. And that is very, very hard to go through, and I'm still learning 5 years down the line. So, but it has been really interesting and exciting to think about how to apply to grants and what should your grant writing toolkit look like. What are some things that should be in that so that you can just have a database that when there is a grant application, you're not scrambling, and you can just be like, okay, I already have this, I already have that. So that is one of the biggest things. And then just thinking about equity and how to manage my money and resources better, and figuring out that not everything is something that you should say yes to, which is one of the biggest learnings I've had during this time. And surprisingly, I've also been lucky to get opportunities that have given me that benefit of like, okay, I have this and I can, pay my dancers a really good wage, but at the same time now I'm not gonna go for these other festivals or things that don't pay you. So it's just a little bit of a reformatting of what you think is valuable and how to manage your resources to make everyone in the process feel supported.
Yeah, and and it's so important at all stages of your career, even as a dancer, to understand budget and to understand how to manage your money. Um, and just a little shout out, I sat on the, you know this, Rohan, but the audience may not know, but I sat on the panel for the Asian American Arts Alliance Jaden Wong Award, which you received, and you were, a glowing application. It was so impressive. All of the panelists, were obviously, you got it, and I'm really happy that you have taken the the opportunities to create, of course, is what we want, what we yearn for, but also the opportunity to kind of hone in on all the administrative side of things. A4 is just, I don't even have the words to describe how amazing they are. I sat on the panel actually this year, but several years back, they asked me to apply for it, and I didn't get it, which is interesting. But they brought me into their office, and they asked me, "What do you want for your?" They asked me, "What are the venues you want to perform at? What are the things that you need as an artist, even as a non-awardee?" And so as an organization, I just need to give them a shout out because they have kept in communication with me, even when you're not awarded, because there were some amazing applications. And it's hard as a panelist, it's hard as an organization to make those decisions. And they really go far and beyond that. So then years later, I'm still working. I'm still, the company is growing, and now they've asked me to be on the panel. So it's a beautiful little full circle thing. So I just wanted to say that I'm so happy that you're taking all of this, all of the opportunities that is coming your way because of the fellowship. And I want to now just kind of rewind a little bit to when you first got to New York and you went to NYU. You did tell me a little that there was a period of time of like struggle that you overcame, and especially in ballet class. And so I mean, just in general, you can talk about your time when you first arrived in New York in the U.S. and in that period.
Yeah, it was a crazy first year. I will say that. So I had been dancing since I was 7, but I'd only started taking ballet classes when I was 16, and the teachers that we had very limited vocabulary. So when I came here and I was, in class, I realized everyone had been doing ballet since they were 3, 5, 7, whatever. But they knew everything, and the teachers assumed that everyone knew everything. And there I was, knowing nothing, is what it seemed like. I think I had the foundations, which was really good because the foundations are something that once you have those correctly, everything builds up on top of that. But I didn't have like a lot of vocabulary. And so for the first year, I don't think I took a single full ballet class. And I would just stand in the back, and the moment we got into center, I would just stand and just pretend like I'm invisible. And like everyone would go from one side, they'll do the across the floor, go to the other side, and I would just walk slowly to the other side, pretend like I did it. And the crazy part was that no one called me out. Like none of the teachers were like, "Why aren't you doing this?" Or there was no pressure. And I think all the pressure was coming from myself of being like, do I fit in? Like, am I ready for this? Or, is this for me? Or like, can I overcome this? But I think that was important for me to have. And then even once I remember thinking like, should I just quit and go back? But then I was like, but I have put so much time and energy, and my parents have put so much money into supporting my career that giving up was not an option. And then over just, telling myself to show up every day, I think the fear of not knowing, the fear of not feeling enough kind of started to lift off. And by the end of the first year, I started taking like a full ballet class and feeling good about it. And I was like, and all that information that the teachers had been saying was just in the body. So I was very happy to be in that environment, even though it was so intimidating. It challenged me in the really really harsh way to kind of meet those markers. And today I'm like, oh, I don't even need ballet. Like now I'm going to like use that technique as like a background and go explore my own techniques of floor work and release. So it's such an interesting thing to go through.
What I hear that's so important is that you showed up. I think that has been a big theme for even me in my life, and as well as my mentees and my dancers. Like showing up is sometimes the hardest thing. And you did that, and then you kept doing that, and then it pushed you through the tougher times. and you mentioned it a little bit, your work, and so I would love I would love for you to talk a little bit about your work, and I think you talk about representation a lot, especially in the recent times of your work, and so I wonder if you can just kind of bring us into Rohan's creative world right now and what that looks like.
Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about the physical aspect of what the work actually looks like and what movement kind of draws me. And so my vocabulary really stems from release technique, floor work, which just means like moving really low to the level if you're not a dancer, and contemporary partnering. I love relationships between dancers and just thinking about the architecture of the bodies. Um, and I love music. So I have had an inclination of work with live musicians or composers creating music. And then in past, most of my work has delved into like intimate themes of love and relationships and sex and addiction and just contemporary feelings of what it feels like to be living life as a human being on this planet. And then more recently, I've added additional layer on top of all of these things of my culture and identity, and seeing how issues or themes or the way people grow up in India today, how they can be used in this concert dance, contemporary dance aesthetic to tell narratives of people from the South Asian diaspora. And a major reason why I wanted to and had been feeling a need to delve into this was because I was seeing that in dance, especially concert contemporary dance, there's a lot of fusion happening, and there's a lot of like traditional dances from India meeting Western dances, and there's a lot of cool stuff like that, which is awesome. But the stories of the people are actually not represented. So the culture or like different dance forms are represented, but how does it feel to grow up in India today? I don't think like there's a lot of dance capturing that, and I felt like there's so much to be explored there, and the culture is so different. And so just the lack of that authentic representation is driving me to figure out how can my upbringing and my values and my culture be used to tell stories that are missing from the narrative. Yeah.
And what is the name of your company, Rohan? And are you working on something right now with your company? I know you just had a show last week.
Yes. So the name of the company is Rovaco Dance, Rovaco Dance. And yes, we are actually working on something this year. So we were commissioned by the Making Moves Dance Festival to create a 40-minute work. It was supposed to happen in September, but because the residency space where we would have to create the work was closed, we decided to do like a work in progress for their September showing. And now in October and November, they're gonna give us like a studio space that'll be just for us to use to actually create this work. And this piece that we're developing is called Aiye, which means welcome from Hindi to English. And I'm working with two Indian dancers who are amazing. And we're delving into language and how the mixture of Hindi and English, which was something that I grew up learning or conversing in, has so much information into body language and cultural norms and aesthetics and how they can transform into movement. And really the overarching concept that we're researching is Indian hospitality. And so that's something that's, I think, so in me as personally coming from my family, but also I see it as like a cultural thing all over India. Hospitality is huge. Guests are treated with so much respect, and they're treated so well, and I think people feel genuine pleasure. And so my goal with this work is to somehow include some of those cultural experiences as part of the dance viewing experience, so that when you come into the theater, before you even enter the space, you're served chai, right? And you're smelling the smells that you might smell in India. whether that's like through incense sticks or something else. And so I'm figuring out how to make the dance very immersive and kind of provide cultural experiences as a way of understanding the culture. Because sometimes you observe it as an outsider, but you don't really get what it's about. But when you feel it, and when someone like, intimately tells you, oh, this is what this means, and this is why I'm doing this, it's so much more precious and beautiful. And I think it helps you understand the history, really, of why it is the way it is.
So that was Making Moves Dance Festival, is that right?
Yeah, and actually the showing that they just had is currently online. So if you
Oh,
go on my website, you can find the online links, and there's a bunch of great artists there, so you can see the work in progress.
oh, great. So we'll find it and we'll drop it in the chat box right now. We'll do that right now. Before I let you go, Rohan, will you give us a self-care tip that you would like to share?
Yeah, since we talked about this a little already about showing up, I'm going to extend that one step further and just say keep learning. That is something that, because I had that experience first year of college, I just realized how humbling and important it is to challenge yourself and just do something different. And so for me in quarantine, that meant cooking Indian food, which I hadn't really cooked like from scratch. And I before that I was taking popping and house classes at EXPG New York, which are two hip hop styles that I hadn't dabbled with. And so, that's more from an artist perspective. But regardless of what you are and what you do, um, it's so nice to just put yourself in a novice position and just put yourself out there and learn something new just for the sake of it. It doesn't even have to be something, but sometimes you find passion, and sometimes it connects with everything that you're doing, and it's beautiful.
I love that. Thank you for that, Rohan. So beautiful. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to Rohan for a little bit. He'll be back at the end for our panel discussion. So again, if you have any comments or questions, please drop it in our chat. And we are also including as many links as possible of all of these wonderful artists. And our third artist tonight is Shang Shu. Are you there, Shang?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Jessica.
So can you introduce yourself and then tell us how you started dancing?
Okay. So first of all, thank you for this great opportunity. My name is Xiang Xu. I'm a choreographer and dancer, as well as artistic director in my dance company, Xiang Xu Dance. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. Just a little bit about myself. I'm currently occupying Muncie Lenape in the Quincy land, which is Brooklyn. But originally, I was born and raised in China. I still remember when I was very little, my grandma would always take me to watch Chinese operas in the local temple. I was so fascinated with their exquisite movements. Every time after I came back home, I would put pillow around my head. I would wrap the sheet around my torso to play like Chinese opera lady. But my parents didn't really support me. We always had a lot of fights. They thought dance is not for boys, and I had no choice. I always told my parents, if you don't send me to a dance school, I'm not going anywhere. So they had no choice, and yeah, so eventually they let me go. They sent me to a dance school. There, I received 5-year professional dance education. After that, at the age of 18, I left my hometown and head north to the Beijing Dance Academy. During my 4-year undergraduate study there, I focused on Chinese dance choreography. And I also met one of the founders in Chinese classical dance, Sun Ying. He profoundly influenced my life and shaped my vision towards understanding an artist's creation is all about the spirit and not just about the worldly society. Under his guidance, I also minored in religious philosophy about Buddhism and Taoism. along with my dance research. Such a good experience it was, but my heart was so struggling back then because I had no idea after I graduated from Beijing Dance Academy, what am I gonna do? You know, like, and I finally decided to go to America for learning contemporary dance. And I still remember a funny story. I told my friend, I said, you know what, I really wanted to go to the US to learn contemporary dance. He just marked my language ability. He said, if you can dance, pigs can climb trees. I was so hopeless back then because most people, including my parents, couldn't believe I could make that happen. But I didn't give up, even there were so many difficulties. But I always believe my faith. I know as long as I can stick with my dream, everything will be possible. Yeah. So after a 2-year preparation, finally I got admission from UCLA. There, the dance program was so different from my previous dance education. My classmates used singing, speaking, props, video projection, and audience interaction in their performances. I was trying so hard to be like them, but it didn't work out because I feel like that was not my main focus. So I decided to transfer to another school to focus on the physicality, you know, more focus on how you explore your own dance language. So that was a big transition. I left UCLA, then I had to restart, you know, to apply for NYU. So that was a big transition from LA to New York. Because when I went to NYU, my professors really challenged my traditional concepts, especially Sean Curran and Phyllis Lamham. The two professors really made my choreographic growth so very, very mature. That's why I have to thank them for their efforts in my growth. Yeah, but in my heart, I always have that role model, Lin Huaiming, because I met him when I was in Beijing Dance Academy many years ago. He told me his story. He went to the US to learn modern dance with Martha Graham. He didn't want to abandon Chinese culture. He is exploring the new language based on Chinese culture, how transform the cultural concepts into his contemporary dance vocabulary. That's how I always have that belief, you know, to follow his path. Yeah, it has been a long way from China to the US. So after I graduated from NYU, I started collaborating with different artists. I choreographed for different dance companies. I also I have done many dance residency all over the world. Especially last year, it was very productive. In March, the Joffrey Ballet invited me to Chicago to choreograph a new contemporary dance piece called Vessels Bearing. Dancers use rice balls to discover the new relationship between physical movement patterns and internal energy chi. The rice ball is not just a functional object in my eyes, it's the soul that fills the body with life force and is connected to the body via energetic cords. Yeah, so to me, contemporary dance is a physical form of philosophy. my goal as an Asian choreographer is to focus on exploring new concepts of dance based on merging Asian philosophies into Western contemporary dance. I strive to discover new Chinese bodily aesthetics as a new definition in contemporary dance, which is based on Asian traditional dances with three bodily curves, center of gravity moving close to the ground, and internal chi, etc. From my choreography, I always think that the relationship between dance and humans and how to transform the physical dance art into human philosophy. And it's not just to explore human emotion or reflect social activities, but also to make art that pushes people to transition from denial to self-knowledge. Yeah. And also last year, in June, I spent 1 month in Israel and Palestine for a residency with the Dia Dance Theater of Bethlehem, the Arab people who invited me to their home, show me the Asian religious sites, and invited me to participate in local cultural events. I was deeply inspired by how, despite all the conflicts in the region, art and dance still thrived. In August, I then traveled to Cambodia and Myanmar to spend 1 month with Prisondam Oak. He is the founder of Cambodia's first all-male gay dance company. He is reviving and reinventing a Khmer dance tradition that was nearly destroyed when most of the nation's dancers were murdered in the 1970s by the Khmer Rouge. One of the many things I learned from him is that talent and creativity are not enough. Art requires courage. Yeah, it has been so much in my life. I, especially during the pandemic this year, I was going to be extremely busy as I had plans to present my new evening length dance piece XY at Aaron Davis Hall in the City College of New York in June. After that, in July, the original plan was to go on tour in the summer to Korea to perform this piece again. And also in August, I would travel to Chicago for my another residency with DanceWorks Chicago. But everything was in chaos after the outbreak of COVID-19. But despite that, I'm still collaborating with my dancers for this piece for next year, because we're gonna postpone this in for next year. And also I'm doing a couple of residencies online to work out with different dancers and the companies. So yeah, this is a new norm we live in today, but following my passions has always been a part of my life. So yeah, just stay strong, stay hungry, and stay humble. Yeah, that's my story. Thank you,
So
Jessica.
beautiful, Shang. I think that I just want to touch on that you have two passions. You have the dance passion, and then you have the passion for philosophy and religion. And in our conversation, you told me about when you were young. So, just before we bring everybody else back, can you paint us a picture of little Shang? Like, what drew you to dance and philosophy? Like, what was it that kind of gave you the calling for both of these and the interconnectedness of both of them?
Well, when I was still in Beijing Dance Academy, I learned so much, about the traditional culture, but it doesn't really give you that chance to explore the connection between tradition and modernized philosophy. Like, I think that's a big gap between the two different genres. Because sometimes when you watch, for example, like rice dance, But from the traditional dance, it doesn't really give you that that opportunity to modernize that perspective. But I feel like from the contemporary dance methodology, that's a good way to really revive the traditional dances into a new perspectives, especially when you see Broadway shows, when you see popular dance, when you see hip hop. I mean, like every like genre has its responsibility. So if you are just wanted to entertain yourself, I feel like you can go watch Broadway show, right? It's much entertaining and visual. But I feel like for the contemporary dance, that's its responsibility to make people contemplate in this world, like how you use that language to make people have that self-knowledge after they watch after audience watch your dance piece, how they can really have that reflection about the world, about their personal life philosophy. That's my artistic view, how I create my dance language in the contemporary dance world. Yeah.
It started at a young age, your curiosity for it. I think you said like 6 or 7 years old you were already like asking the big questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's also a part of my nature. When I was very little, I would ask my parents about, where humans will go after they, dead, or who is the winner between Jesus and Buddha, or if the reincarnation really exists in the world, like how we really, process our daily life with that. So, or ghosts, souls, like those questions were always in my mind when I was very little, but my parents didn't really appreciate. They just feel like I was a weird kid. I was always different from others. Even like I'm still on left hand, but like when I was very little, my parent, like when my teachers taught my parents, like you needed to teach your kid how to use the right hand, to use everything. So they forced me to write by right hand, eating by right hand. I still remember. It was like a very deep memory in my childhood. It was tough, but I mean, I made it like with my dream. I didn't really give up. Even my parents didn't agree with me for many things. But my soul has been guiding me through my path. Yeah.
And maybe you just answered this, but what was it that like kept you going, like kept you steady with your passion, your path, like with all of the obstacles?
I think like like during each stage of your life, you always have a calling or revelation, if you would like to call this. Because like I was not mature at all when I was very little. I was very rebellious. Like I was the worst student in my class from my primary school. Even like teachers taught my parents, they said like, I think your kid it's not smart. Maybe you need to think about, his future. Like after the middle school, he is not able to go to the high school. Like like with his performance, that's totally impossible. So my parents were so mad. They never ever um, went to the parents meeting from my school. I remember like when I told them like, oh, there is a meeting tonight, like all the parents have to be at the school. They never been there. because they feel embarrassed, like with my performance at the school. So that's why, like, when I mentioned I wanted to dance, they just feel like you are ridiculous. You don't even know what you want. Yeah. So right now, like I said, like I told my parents, see, I graduated from NYU with MFA, right? And they were just like sometimes like they don't see anything. They are just speechless, because they knew when I was little, they didn't really give me a lot of opportunities to pursue. Yeah, so I think that's just a calling from my each stage. Um, when I see myself as a dancer or a choreographer or anything else, I never ever gave up. I always fight with my destiny. Yeah.
I want, if it's okay, I would love for you to share the story of your Beijing Academy audition.
Well, thank you
And
for
then we'll bring
mentioning that.
everyone back.
Okay, got you. Yeah, it was very legendary though. Um, so I never expect to get into that program seriously, because it's very competitive. Everybody wants to go there to learn dance. It's the number one dance school in China, and my parents know nobody. They are not artists. So when I told my parents, I said, like, after my 5-year dance program, I said I wanted to go to Beijing Dance Academy for learning dance. They said, come on, like, you need to be realistic, Sean. Like, that's not your dream. We are not artists. We know nobody there. Like, how can you get in? Like, there are so many on the table deals. We don't have enough money for you to to do this. We know nobody. Like, so we have zero chance to support you. That's why I said I wanted to go. That's my dream. Nobody can stop me. So they just let me go. And I went there by myself. And the first year I didn't get it. After audition, but I didn't give up. I said I needed to take the dance program in Beijing Dance Academy, and for the second chance next year. So during the second after I finished everything for the first year, well, one day before the second audition, I had a dream. I was dreaming of staying in a dark space, a big light bulb coming down in the front of me, and I saw there is an image of like Bodhisattva, Wenshu. We call it Wenshu Pusa. She is in charge of wisdom. So I saw that image, but I couldn't see anything from the outside. And after I woke up, I went to audition. I couldn't believe everything was perfect. Like, I seriously accept myself during the auditioning process. Even when I pick up the music for the music improvisation, I saw the one auditioning before me. He picked the African drum, and I told myself, if I can pick up this music, I will improvise perfectly. So when it was my turn, seriously, among the I think 20 or 30 music pieces, I seriously got it. So I was like, wow. I don't know. I think something is going on around the world. I'm always spiritual about the world, how you see yourself, how you stick with your dream. If you don't give up, if you always say yes, you can do it, you can make that. So yeah, that's just the story.
I just needed you to share because, I mean, how many of us have the perfect audition? What a beautiful story. Thank you so much, Shang. So you're going to stay on and we're going to bring everybody back and we'll open it to discussion. So we will.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. So Neysha, Aaliyah, Rohan, come back. Hi, welcome back. So at this point, we're gonna go into our panel discussion and I will hand it over to Neysha. Take it over.
All right. Ooh, thank you so much for all of your, just everything that you guys have talked about this entire time has just been super amazing, very inspiring, and I have a couple of questions for you. I just wanted to start off with Rohan. Your parents were such a big influence in your career. And you know, you're an administrative marketing person in dance, as well as a choreographer and a dancer. Like, how important was their support to you? I guess that's my question to you. Like, how important was that support, and how did they how do you say this? How did they add on to the person that you are today? How do they contribute to the person that you are today? There we go. Better question.
Yeah, that's a great question, and the answer is paramount. Their support was literally everything, and I am eternally grateful. And the thing was that it was always there. It was not like something they had to work on. It just came naturally to them, and I never even thought about it, that they were supporting me till, after I came here. And you don't, when you're in it, you take things for granted. Which is so sad, but we all do it. But looking back at it, I'm like, everything that they did, and they were just like that. Both my parents, especially my mom, is like, she would get behind you, and like, she made me take many different things. And with my sister was a national level swimmer, and my mother would wake up every day at 4 a.m. in the morning, drive her 45 minutes to this indoor stadium pool, and literally shout, like, like almost like cheer her on, taking her laps just to increase her pace of swimming. And they came for all of my shows, and they said great things about all of them. They gave critiques even, like, they were so engaged. And having that kind of support, like, makes you feel like it never made me judge or question what I was doing. It was just like, you're great, keep doing it. You're great, keep doing it. And I think, and maybe that's why when I came to NYU, there was no option of quitting. You know what I mean? I also want to say they're very relaxed and they're very chill, and they're not like overbearing. And I think that allowed me to then discover who I wanted to be. And so, yes, they had values, and yes, they had rules, but at the same time, they were flexible, and they were like, we want you to be happy, which is one of the biggest things in my family. They were always like, do what makes you happy, like, do what makes you happy. And till date, I'm like, I feel like I'm able to find happiness and resilience through anything, is because of that guiding light of like, do what makes you feel good. So if in this moment you want to sleep all day, sleep all day, and if that what makes you feel good, do that. And that kind of not judgment and pressure is so crucial to have.
Nice. Yeah, it's just such a big difference from Zhang.
Yeah.
I was listening. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, we have, you have two different sides of the spectrum, which I think is like really awesome. You have somebody with like lots of support from their parents, and then you have someone who like didn't really get that. Because I know when I was younger, I didn't get that either. They were kind of like, okay, so what's going on with your bio career? And I was like, little do you know, I'm undecided and not going for bio. I'm going for dance. Yeah, which is, everyone has their own battles, but I'm glad that your parents were grateful and that you can pass that down to, the future generation of dancers.
Yeah.
Aaliyah, I would have a question for you. Since you are trained in music and in dance, I want to know how that has transformed your choreographic process. So I would just want to know a little bit more, if you can go a little bit more in depth of your choreographic process and how you select music or select movement and, hear the beats and the counts and all that good stuff.
Well, every once in a while, I will let the music lead. I will let the music be the muse and let her do her thing, and I will show up and do what she suggests. To be perfectly honest, though, a lot of the times the music is maybe like the second, third, fourth thing that actually happens. I really like to create a story or explore a concept first and foremost. Wow. So for me, telling a story, whatever the story may be, is going to be the most important thing. And from there, I have probably figured out what the costumes are, what it looks like, how I want it to feel emotionally. And the arc of the story is what dictates then the music. I really love using things that I'm probably not going to hear someone else use. I love music that's in like a 5/6 or a 7/8 because it's not as easy to work with, or something that is multi-rhythmic changes, from, we'll have a few measures of one thing and then it switches back. That type of music for me is super challenging and so much fun to work with. So as often as I can, I will try to find something like that fits the story. And a lot of the things that I deal with are kind of absurdist looks on a situation. And for me, oddly enough, Bach really kind of speaks to absurdity, Baroque music, that misshapen pearl, just big and weird. And like, that's the type of stuff that I really like to explore.
That's so interesting. Just because, yeah, I don't know. I was a singer when I was younger, so that kind of like translates. I'm really more about like the melody than the backbeat sometimes, but it all can change. But I love that you're working with like these huge, big, like ginormous pieces of music and choreographing to. I wouldn't even say like the story. Well, there is a story behind it, but you know what I mean. Like just the, what do you call it, like the line of the music, like how it goes like A B C, like
like the structure basically.
Yeah, you're choreographing to the structure and using the structure as like a leeway for your story, and yeah, that's like really beautiful. So super interesting. And lastly, Zhang, I love how you put philosophy and dance and you just like marry them together, especially contemporary. And I loved how you said that every genre has its responsibility. That was like super powerful to me when you were speaking. So if you could kind of just go into like, how does Chinese folk dance represent something, just like you talked about contemporary and how that represents people's contemplation, and it has to make people think. Like, what other genres, can you give me like 3 other genres and kind of like what they represent?
Oh, the 3 genres?
Or so 3 genres that you've done and their responsibility to.
The first one, I said Broadway, right? Broadway, hip hop, like popular, dance, contemporary dance, the 3 genres. If when more like traditional dance, so I would say like 4 genres. So the first one, like if you wanted to entertain yourself, right? I mean, definitely you can go watch Broadway show or or hip hop, whatever, like street dance. Like I think those are more towards entertaining part. But for contemporary dance, I feel like if like you just focus on telling stories, I think that's not the like the strong point for contemporary dance, because you really underestimate its power in human arts, because sometimes abstract, can really extend your spiritual philosophy much deeper and further than entertaining culture. And also traditional dance, I feel like that's the memory for different nations, ethnicities, how you really preserve your past, right? As a connection between us as a group. So that's why I feel like if you just, mix everything together, like, I think that's what I learned from when I was in Beijing Dance Academy, because in Chinese classical dance, right now, people, choreographers mix a lot of different movement vocabularies from contemporary dance, from hip hop, from other genres, because they feel like choreographically it looks much better. It looks more visual on stage, but they don't really think about what's behind it. They don't really go back to the Chinese history, like how Chinese people danced back then, right? We didn't have that floor work, right? Nobody like dances like in the palace, rolling around on the floor, or like doing those crazy things. No, so you needed to respect that. You cannot really put this with that genre. I mean, if you wanted to incorporate, like, you should have that historical responsibility. So that's what I learned. Even like like that thought, like I always bring this into my contemporary dance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So just taking traditional dance and, I feel like I don't want to say each genre is traditional in its separate way, but like, modern has its history, ballet has its history, hip hop has its history, like folk has its history, everything has its history. And yeah, it's super important just like to go back and like train with those people who are just doing that. And later, if you want to mix it together, yeah, that's really cool too. But you know where it comes from, because a lot of dancers don't know where a lot of things come from anymore today. So yes, thank you for that. Every genre does have its responsibility. I'm going to continue to say that. That was so freaking cool. Yeah. One last question from Aaliyah, actually. She is asking everyone, and you can elaborate on this too, Aaliyah. What is your dream project? You can actually start with you, since you kind of made it up.
Okay, so basically what I am asking is if you guys could do any project that you wanted to. Money's not an option. You don't have to get funding or anything like that. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? What are you going to say? For me, I would say, at least right now, my dream project is a piece that I have come up with, and I've actually been working on it. It's called A Pretty Box in Which to Die. And it is about how we consume and consume and consume, and the effects that it has, our consumption basically, it has on the planet. I want it to be a big, big show. And this project will actually challenge your notion, Sean, I think, of Broadway shows being only entertainment, because I want this to be a Broadway show, or a Broadway-like show, or at least the caliber and the scenery and the sets and everything. I want everything to be sustainable. And I also want it to tell a story and ask questions, and just kind of hold a mirror to our American way of life. Western way of life, I'll say, because there are probably other Western countries that are equally wasteful. Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be such a huge and like very important project, just to get I would say America, to just look in the mirror and like take accountability for like all the waste and
Yeah.
consumption. It's just ingrained in our society right now, and just to challenge that idea is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Rohan, you can go next.
Yeah, it's funny that you asked this question because I had an idea very recently. It was inspired by listening to music. I don't know if this would be like my dream project if there was like no restrictions, but that's something that right now I know that it's not possible for me, and something that I really feel inspired to do. So I'll talk about that. But there's this really amazing a cappella group called Pen Masala, which is a small, well, it's not small, they're pretty famous, but they're based inside of Pennsylvania State University, Penn University. It's the Ivy League university, and it's a South Asian, mainly South Asian a cappella group, and they do a fusion of really famous and beautiful Hindi music with famous pop songs, American pop songs, especially from the era that I was growing up in. And so I imagine like this production where there's like these 15 dancers who can beatbox and who can create music with their mouths, and adding instruments of sitar and tabla to it, and then adding dancers going through that, the audience sitting all around in an intimate but still like kind of like a big spectacle kind of a thing. I don't know what it's going to be about, but just the music, listening to it made me cry the other day, just like thinking, just imagining bodies moving with the words, with the sounds coming from the mouths, and just what the beauty of that, those two cultures, and the narratives that would exist in that exploration. Would require a lot of funding, but definitely is something that's possible maybe in the future, putting it out there. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. Oh, I love acapella music. Just to choreograph, or would you have that on stage with the dancers, or would the
Yes.
dancers be like beatboxing as well, or like?
Now you're like giving me ideas. I don't know if the dancers would be beatboxing, but definitely they would be on stage, moving through, and I think that could be such beautiful relationships with the music. And actually, I've done one work before with a beatboxer. It was like one beatboxer and four dancers, but that was quite different. But yeah, so yeah, that would be the idea.
That's really cool. We need to see that. If there's a link, put it in the chat box.
Oh yeah, there probably is. I'll put it in.
All right, Zhang. You're muted.
Muted?
Yes, you got it.
Here?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I do have a dream project. I have been actually really think about it. Even when I was doing the Joffrey residency last year, I was supposed to make this happen, but technically it was too complicated. That's why it didn't happen. Yeah, so from my vision, I really want to have a multicultural collaboration between dance and Chinese traditional band, and also with rice, like tons of rice on stage, you know, to really transform this landscape into a very spiritual world. Because for me, like I feel like rice is not just, you know, like something we eat or something, you know, we treat this like a surviving thing. I think like when you eat the rice, when you eat bread, when you eat steak from different cultures, we actually have different mentality, have different ideologies based on what we eat. I feel like that's what it influences us for those differences. So from my artistic view, I really want to do this project, like how, you know, like dancers have that spiritual connection between rice and the society, like how they and also like how the rice become a part of their costumes. So like when they dance, the rice can automatically go, stay on their skin, like kind of like this kind of idea, like like that's how you really transform the traditional idea into a new modernized way. Because when you see a rice dance, right? I mentioned before, it's in the past, right? Because we have that connection, right, for our history as a group. But here, when I reuse rice, like how I have this new definition in the contemporary dance world as a Chinese choreographer, like I present that culture, but I use the contemporary, the new modern tool to speak in a new way. So that's my dream project. But I mean, I know that's very difficult, technically to make that happen. But I hope one day I will make that happen soon.
It's true. Rice is in almost like every culture. We all have our special way of making it and just developing it and how it has grown from, how we used to make it and how we make it today.
Mhm.
That's a really crazy concept and it's super razor sharp. That's you gotta keep, yeah. I hope that comes to life one day too. And Jessica, if you want to chime in on this, you can.
Yeah, so I think that I'm working. I mean, I have several dreams, right? That's why many infinite dreams. But the dream that I'm working on right now is, and maybe I'm gonna say it prematurely, but who cares? It's an immersive show, or it's a show that takes the audience into the different worlds of the feminine archetypes. And I'm just so interested, maybe because I'm a woman, or maybe the times that we live in and the changing times and the conversations that we're having about how we talk to women and how we treat women are all the things that Neysha knows that I have been exploring in my work the last 3 years in different multifaceted ways. And so I have this dream to create a show or an immersive experience that takes people in, like, deep into each of the archetypes, like mother, like warrior huntress, like, and for me to better understand each of them and all the different parts of me, and for the world to also have that as well. Like, what are all the different parts of a woman? And what are the different levels of that? And I think all of us have feminine qualities, no matter what you identify with or how you identify. There's a feminine and the masculine that needs to balance out, and so that's the dream that I am in, and what I want to know for myself, and what I would love to bring through dance and theater and like immersion to the world. That's, we create things to bring into the world, and that's why we do what we do and why we never give up. And so that is my dream. So you folks are the first ones I'm sharing them with, except for like grants and stuff like that, grants and production people. So yeah, that's what I would love. I would love to have a world where we all understand all the different elements of what humanity is, including the masculine and the feminine. And but yeah, so that's what I have. And how about you, Neysha?
Oh, I wasn't ready for that. Wow, I really gotta think about this. So when I was in college, I was more working on choreography. So I'm just trying to like ask my past, like what would I have done? I think it has to do with the way that people communicate and how things can be misconstrued, and I've just really been diving deep into like how to communicate better as a person myself and how to communicate ideas with other people and why miscommunications happen, and like what are you really fearing to say versus what do you say instead, and just working with that idea but in your body, because I agree with like what Zhang said, like using your body. I mean, we can all agree on this, using your body as like a form of communication. That's what we do for a living. And just to really translate the way that humans communicate. And it can be derived from like different personality types and, you know, different cultures. I don't know. You put me on the spot. That's my idea that I have so far. But yeah, I feel like it'll be a lot of like partnering for sure, because the dialogue. You can actually do a solo as well. You know, dialogue with yourself, dialogue with other people, dialogue with people you don't agree with, dialogue with people you do agree with, and how that translates to movie. I'm glad we have this recorded because I need to write this down.
Now we all have to do it. All 5 of us make our dreams come true. And I do, you know, before we leave, just want to also comment on Shang's what he said about merging different genres. And I think that one thing that I've been thinking about is also when you do, to do it intentionally as a form of disruption to the ways that things have been. You know, maybe it is blending 2 forms or pulling in other textures as a way to talk about the past, but also in a way to disrupt it. Just an idea to throw out there. But what a wonderful, invigorating evening. Thank you to all the artists here with us tonight. And thank you for our audience for commenting and for being with us as well. We've included as many links as we can in our chat box, but also in our description, we have specific links for each of these artists. So please follow them. They're going to create some powerful and profound work, and they already have. So very privileged and honored to have them here tonight. And I do want to also say that if you have the capability to please donate to the arts, if that is possible for you. Donate to these artists if that's possible. And if you want to join the CHEN Project Annual Fund, that there's also information below. And then next week, this week was our episode 3. Next week, we have episode 4. We're here again on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be with Shoko Tamai, Melissa Bobick, and Liz Mulkey. And with that, I just want to say thank you again, my heart to all of you. And we'll see you all soon in the digital world, or maybe in person too.
Forget the screenshot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neysha, Jessica.
Oh, sorry. We are going to take a screenshot before we leave. Oh my God. Sorry. Almost forgot. Hold on.
I got it. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you. Great job, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
All right.